Bloomberg News.
As we reported earlier this morning, the S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index dropped 18% compared with a year earlier. For more on what these numbers mean for the outlook for housing, Karl Case, professor of economics at Wellesley College, co-creator of the index, joining us now from Newton, Massachusetts. Chip, we're so glad to have you back on Starting Bell. What does this lowest level ever, 7 years, mean? I mean, are we at the bottom in the housing market?
I'd love it if we were, but I'm not sure we are. I mean, there's mixed news. First of all, you have to understand there are two things going on, and the numbers are really driven by these two things. The first is the more traditional sales, like in the past. People put their house on the market, they wait it out, and they won't lower their price. And then there are the auction sales. The auction sales are a big deal, and they're concentrated. 54% of them are in 4 states: Florida, California, Nevada, and Arizona. They're down a lot. If you look at those cities, they're driving the aggregate index down. But if you look at the rest of the states, outside of those 4, things are not so bad. Places are down 10 to 12% over a period of 3 years. They're hardly in free fall. So there's good news and bad news in the data.
So do you need to see those 4 areas stabilize before you say, from a national perspective, we've hit the bottom?
Yeah, I think we do. I mean, they're going to take a while to clear. We're not jamming foreclosure. We're not getting the restructurings through very quickly. There are a lot of properties down there that have to be worked through the foreclosure process, and they're going to drive those 4 states for a while. The hope is that the rest of the housing market, the rest of the states, stabilize in a little quicker. And if you look at some of the numbers on what happened in October, October was you got to remember, October, by the way, these are October numbers. October was a very bad month. It was the stock market went from around 11,000 down to about 8. Lehman Brothers went down, and so October was a pretty terrible month. November, there's some good news and bad news. Existing sales went down again. Existing sales went down a lot, but inventories fell too. And the new home inventories in November were a pretty positive number. So I'm hoping if we could get these 4 states isolated and not have it infect the rest of the economy as bad as some people think it might, we could see some stability in the coming year outside of those 4 states.
Chip, you created the index. Was there any surprise in the data for this past month? And as you referred to, it's the October data.
Not really. I mean, I think it still says that prices are falling everywhere. There's no doubt about that. There's no glossing over these numbers. They're not great. And if house prices continue to fall, the worry is that the 2008 and the 2009 book of mortgage business will get into trouble and be a continuing drag on the credit side. So I don't think there's any surprise in the numbers, neither positive nor negative. I mean, it's a continuing story of these 4 states driving the foreclosures, with 54% of them concentrated there. In fact, 40% of them are in 2 states, Florida and California, which unfortunately represent about a third of the value in the country.
What is the impact of confidence of the average person's ability to get a loan in the other states other than the 4 that you're talking about? Or are these 4, as you just mentioned, such a dominant part of the national picture that they can't be isolated?
Well, I think the credit picture is bleak, but getting a little better. Rates are coming down. There's a lot of pressure to get things restructured. But the credit side of the market is a big concern because people are not going to get loans, particularly, by the way, if house prices continue to fall and the mortgage business in 2008 and 2009 looks not to be profitable. That's going to discourage people from lending into that market. And without credit, you don't get starts coming back. You don't get existing sales coming back. Existing sales dropped in November very sharply. And it's a worry, the credit side, as you say. But it's a worry everywhere.
Chip, we only have 2 more seconds. What's the year that you see a turnaround?
Well, I'm one of those people who's the last holdout for 2009. I think you'll really see, outside of these 4 states, some stability return as the auctions drop off.
Chip, we thank you. Chip Case, professor of economics at Wellesley College and co-creator of the Case-Shiller Home Price Index.
Hear more Bloomberg News reports on the Bloomberg Terminal at AV Go, on Bloomberg Television, and on Bloomberg Radio. Copyright Bloomberg LP